Welcome back to Ben Rants. And when I was a kid, people knew how to mind their own damn business. We're living in pretty wild times, folks. I'm part of a generation that was thrown right in the middle of a technology upgrade from analog to digital. We went from having to play solitaire waiting for our email to load, to having all the information we could ever want on this little brick we carry in our pockets. Yet despite this age we live in, where anybody can look up whatever information they need to know, they still choose to be completely stupid. It's true discrimination and intolerance has been a problem as long as humans have been a species. I saw firsthand as a kid how gay people were treated and looked down on in the environment I grew up in. With so many people using the internet to be chaos agents, we're seeing all kinds of groups receiving hate nowadays right in front of everyone's faces. But one group catching a lot of the hate that I would like to focus on today is transgender and gender non-conforming people. Now, if I can give the hateful people the benefit of the doubt, because that's apparently what we have to do nowadays, I get it. When you live a sheltered life with not much exposure to the outside world, like I did, the concept of someone changing their gender and going by a new name to reflect that identity might be a little jarring. And yes, that is something I had to be exposed to firsthand when I went to college in Chicago. I had not one, but two friends who began their transition in the 2 years I attended classes with them. And you know what my reaction was? Cool. Yeah, I didn't care. I was happy for them. Clearly, they were making decisions that made them feel free to be themselves, and I fully supported that. And all I had to do was change the pronouns I referred to them as and call them by new names. That's all. Why the hell is that so hard for everyone else? Like, honestly, I don't understand why trans people deserve this much hate from everyone from online trolls to billionaires to even elected officials who are creating laws that are directly affecting these people. It's insane. Trans people don't even make up 2% of the US population, where I live. Leave it to the majority to constantly be afraid of a group of people with less numbers than them. So, I decided to make this video to analyze transphobia and show people how it's turning everyone brain dead. But before we dive into that, we're going to be shattering a whole lot of myths in this video. So let's get the big one out of the way. Trans people aren't real! It's a social trend that started 10 years ago! Okay, well, hate to disappoint anybody dumb enough to believe that, but here we go. Here's Harry Allen, a trans man who lived as an outlaw in the Old West. Not far enough for you? Albert Cashier, a trans man who immigrated from Ireland and joined the Union Army during the Civil War. And he lived most of his life in Illinois, so representation there. Wendy Carlos. You fans of Stanley Kubrick might be familiar with her haunting synthetic music in such movies as A Clockwork Orange and The Shining. Well, she's a trans woman. And you're probably saying, oh, those are too few and not far enough examples. Okay, well, ancient Egypt had a concept of more than two genders. The Nubu people of Sudan has a history of transgenderism in their tribes. The Native Americans had third genders as well as two-spirit identities. The 18th century Haitian Revolution was started by a person who either transitioned to be a woman or was gender fluid. Historians are still trying to figure out which. A colonel of the Mexican Revolution, Emilio Robles, was a trans man. Thomasine Hall, was a servant in 1600s Virginia who identified as both male and female. In 1952, Christine Jorgensen was the first widely publicized case of a sex change operation. And transgenderism has a history in Thailand dating back 2,100 years to the point that they are the country with the most sex reassignment surgeries. And I'm just scratching the surface here, folks! So no, as someone who's into history as I am, I don't buy the concept that transgenderism is strictly a new concept that was born out of college campuses preaching Marxism in the 21st century. These people have been around throughout all of our existence across all kinds of countries and cultures. Changing one's gender is as ingrained in our DNA as the air we breathe on a daily basis. Hope all you super transphobes watching this are finding ways to cope with that information now. So, the first time I heard about trans issues and outrage over them was in 2015 when some states were drafting bathroom bills forcing trans people to use the restroom that doesn't correlate with their gender identity. Why? Well, I guess the year after gays got the right to marry, politicians needed a new group to harass. Trans people had been using bathrooms with no issues for years at that time. Why was it all of a sudden a problem worth making a big stink about? 'Cause apparently people would assume men would dress as women, sneak into their restrooms, and molest them. Okay, one, you have to be pretty blissfully unaware to think the only thing stopping a creepy guy from molesting women is a sign on a door. Two, what you're describing is drag, not transgenderism. Something tells me I have to make that distinction a lot. And three, I apologize, but if your basis for agreeing with a law is because of an exaggerated scenario you made up in your head, then you've already lost this argument. Well, thankfully, most of these bills fail because trans people are just so good at glowing up that nobody can tell who's cisgender and who ain't. But that isn't stopping wacky politicians from still trying to make them a thing well into this year. Like, come on, people. These are bathrooms we're talking about. I don't care if I have to share one with a trans person. I just want to go in, take a shit, and get out. Like most people. Public bathrooms at Popeyes aren't the hotbed for gang orgies that conservatives seem to think they are. I definitely noticed an uptick in trans hate towards the start of the 2020s. Seemed gay panic made such a big comeback, and all the other letters in the alphabet group got lumped into those attacks as well. Heck, there's even some queer groups that are transphobic themselves and think trans people don't deserve to be in the community. Bitch? One of the biggest figures that helped kickstart gay rights was a trans woman named Marsha P. Johnson. During the Stonewall police raids, she was done putting up with that shit and started throwing bricks, and everyone else followed her lead. And even if that didn't happen, no, trans people are as a part of this like anyone else. They understand the struggle of having to hide themselves and finally feel comfortable coming out of their shells. All they want is love and acceptance. So no, these groups don't speak for us queer folk. They're just opportunists trying to act like the good ones, hoping the leopards don't eat their faces. So 2022 came around, and if you spent enough time online, you probably heard of a massive conspiracy that queer and trans folk were sneaking into schools to turn your kids trans. Gee, they're not even original with their hatred anymore. That's the same thing they said about gay people back in the 60s. Oh no, those homosexuals are gonna molest your kids and turn them gay. Let me newsflash y'all. Just like being gay, transness ain't something you can turn on and off. If you feel you're in the wrong body, then you're gonna feel that way until you change it. Do some trans people detransition? Yes, and that's their choice. Obviously, going through all the hurdles to hormonally and physically change the body you were born in is tough for some people, and they would rather not. That doesn't give you the right to use conversion therapy on trans people the same way you could on gays. It didn't work for us, it's not gonna work for them. So no, trans people aren't molesting your kids. Can there be child diddlers who are trans? Absolutely. Any human is capable of doing bad things. Heck, look at all the child molesters who are old straight white dudes. I don't see any panic around straight white dudes being after your kids. So why do we target one specific group then? Trans people ain't trying to turn your kids trans. Like, honestly, what would that accomplish? Other than making the next generation more fabulous, I have yet to hear anybody give me a clear answer what trans people would do with an army of little trans kids. Again, making up cartoony scenarios in your head doesn't justify people having their rights taken away. It just makes me wonder, where are all these people coming from? How can people who probably never met a trans person in real life all of a sudden think they're an infestation trying to turn America into a rainbow orgy paradise? And here's the part of the video where I take on the biggest transphobes that are helping to spread all this bull crap to millions of people. First, Matt Walsh. This toothpick lumberjack who can't even do his own laundry and sells diaper fetish plushies of himself is a host on the Daily Wire, where he doesn't make a show any different from his co-hosts. Just the same gripes and complaints about how society is progressing and the old men want to yell at clouds about it. Matt gained notoriety when he became one of the biggest vocal critics of the groomer panic and targeted transgenderism specifically, helping to spread the mutilation of children narrative. Okay, another sidebar. While there are kids who identify as trans, it's very rare they ever have physical surgery that alters their bodies. The most they receive at young ages are gender-affirming care and puberty blockers, both of which have been medically practiced for years and deemed safe by every major medical organization you can think of. I totally understand people have this fear of medical professionals dealing with children, as I'm not the most trusting of the healthcare industry myself. But that's my personal choice, and I'm not going to say every single person's case is going to be the same. So let the doctors and their patients figure out what's best for them. I'd still trust a kid with a doctor more than a Catholic priest. So going back on Matt, he made a big splash in 2022 when he released the documentary, What is a Woman? It was a daring, controversial movie that said everything you aren't allowed to say, despite getting big promotions from people like Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, and Fox News that said all these things you're apparently not allowed to say. It was seen as the supersize me of the LGBTQ plus community. It was going to destroy them as a group and completely force us all back into the closet. Did it succeed? Well, do you still see McDonald's all over the place? Shows you how well documentaries like this work. The movie came and went, and I don't see many people talking about it anymore. I didn't bother watching it because I knew I was just going to hear the same transphobic BS I've been hearing for 9 years now. It was just the flavor of the month that faded away just like anything else these grifters try to produce. But I'll be nice and answer Matt's question. Mr. Walsh, a woman is a type of person who your side thinks should be pumping out babies like incubators, shackled in the kitchen, forced to carry the babies of people who grape them, and shouldn't have the right to vote. Did I clear that up for you? Now, tell us more about how you think we should be getting 16-year-olds pregnant to help boost up the white population.
It is not. In fact, ever since the beginning of time, teenage girls have been getting pregnant. It used to be more common. In 1957 was the peak for teenage pregnancy. 1957. Not 2009,
well, back
not
then,
today.
All of them were supposed to have kids. Like, that's when you had kids.
That's my point, okay? Girls between the ages of like 17 and 24 is when they're technically most fertile.
Yeah.
Okay? That's biological. That's a fact, all right? I'm just stating facts. That's all I'm doing. We decided that that's way too young to start a family. So what I'm saying is that the problem is not per se teenage pregnancy. It's unwed pregnancy. That's the problem in society. It's only problematic when you are not married and you don't have the man there to help you take care of the kids because he's a coward.
But no, it's the gays who are the groomers. Ooh! The next big transphobe I want to address is Libs of TikTok, the username of a woman named Chaya Rychek. Not much is known about Chaya before 2022, other than there's strong evidence she was at the Capitol on January 6th. But until we get concrete, solid evidence of that, I'll just say she was there for funsies. Anyway, her whole grift is she'll post videos and photos of LGBTQ plus people, mostly teachers, and make them out to be monsters trying to grape kids. Oh, and she likes to cause bomb threats to be called into libraries, hospitals, and even Planet Fitness. Because the best way to protect kids is to threaten to blow up where they go on a daily basis, right? Now, to give her the benefit of the doubt, she claims all she does is show videos that people themselves post online, and she's just making her Nazi fans aware of them. And by that, I mean doxing people, figuring out where they work, and encouraging her followers to do something about it by influencing a calling campaign that results in harassment and getting said individuals fired from their jobs. These are the same people that complain about cancel culture, right? And she does such a good job of being a domestic terrorist with absolutely no punishment for sowing chaos in local communities, she was hired onto the advisory board for the Oklahoma Board of Education. She doesn't even live in Oklahoma. Well, shoot, Chaya. If protecting kids is such a high priority for you, how about you go after people like this guy? Or this guy? Oh, this guy especially. Oh, and hey, apparently a guy who was besties with Jeffrey Epstein is running for president. Surely you're going to lose your influence to go after him. Oh, what's that? You're supporting him and think he should be the next president? Oh, wow, okay, cool. So all this protect the kids crap is just bullshit, and you're just using it as an excuse to be a modern day Anita Bryant, making the lives of LGBTQ plus people miserable, because deep down, you're just a hateful, homophobic bitch! Dang, I'm starting to see why your husband left you. Honey, what's for supper? The alphabet people are trying to trace the kids! Whee! Guess I'm ordering pizza again. And finally, probably the most mainstream transphobe, and one I saved for last cause I was heartbroken by this individual, J.K. Rowling. After becoming one of the biggest selling authors of all time, kickstarting a media franchise that's beloved all over the world, and inspiring a whole generation of kids to read and believe the world is full of magic, has shifted to being a turf crank who has the most raging hate boner against trans people. She literally tried to make herself seem woke by claiming Dumbledore was always meant to be gay, but she draws the line at people changing their gender. For years now, she's slowly been going insane by getting wrapped up in anti-trans hysteria to the point of actually participating in Holocaust denialism by claiming trans people weren't a group the Nazis persecuted. So, the lady who wrote a whole book series where the main villain was based on the rise of the Third Reich has come full circle to denying the actions of the said Third Reich. Talk about a "are we the baddies" moment. I don't know how JK's mind operates because transphobia has turned her brain to mush, but she claims to be fighting against men invading women's spaces under the guise of being an outspoken feminist who just wants to protect women. Sure, Joanne. It's the trans that are holding women down, not the system you are a part of that convinced you to use the name JK because publishers thought seeing a woman's name on a kid's book cover would prevent boys from buying it. No, it's the trans people who did that to you, yep! Well, all this love of protecting women came to bite her in the ass when she thought a main caliph was a man who was gonna kill all the female boxers at the Olympics. Yeah, you sure called that one, didn't you? What happened, Joanne? Did a main not fit your standards of femininity that you assumed she was a man? I thought feminism was about everyone being welcome. Are you gatekeeping now? Are you just using feminism as a crutch because you're just a radical transphobe who was bored with all the money you made off of Harry Potter that you needed something to get attention put back on you? What the hell, JK? Your books helped an outcast like me feel like I can make friends and see all the magic in the world. But the science should have been there from the start. Literally wrote in books aimed at kids that house elves should be kept as slaves. Guess you weren't as tolerant as you made yourself out to be. Do the world a favor. Take all your money and just run off to an island somewhere. Get some animals, take care of them, just stay off the internet. You never have to work a day in your life anymore, so why don't you, as you Brits say, kindly fuck off? And before I finish this video, let me briefly touch on the Dylan Mulvaney Bud Light controversy from last year. So, Budweiser and Bud Light. I can't think of any other product that is more associated with America. Sports teams are sponsored by them, their ads are all about Americana and what America is, and every summer they change their can and bottle designs to red, white, and blue, and even call themselves America. Yes, pass me the America beer. But with that in mind, all it took to piss off all these so-called American patriots who want to apologetically defend every negative criticism you could have of our country was for Bud Light to send a can with a TikTok star Dylan Mulvaney's face on it to her. Now, that seems pretty normal. What would be such a trivial matter to piss so many people off? It's 'cause Dylan Mulvaney is a trans woman.
This but's for you.
And that's all it took. She didn't beat anybody up. She didn't say the U.S. should follow the policies of Pol Pot. She didn't post a manifesto to inspire people to assassinate the president. She is just a TikTok star who happens to be a trans woman. That's all. Now, I ain't one to police other people's emotions, But y'all think you overreacted just a little bit? But, of course, it was once again the outrage of the month, and a year later, it seems nobody is even talking about it anymore. People are drinking Bud Light again, all is well. Makes these kind of outrages feel like fever dreams, but they ain't. They real. I've seen them happen. I think I'll end here. I could go on about this topic all day because transphobia is unfortunately everywhere, and it can go into psychotic territory. I didn't even touch on transvestigators because I don't want to give them any more validation. They're online way too much and need to get lives. Seriously. Just wanted to stick up for my trans brothers and sisters to tell them that they're not alone. Thankfully, a majority of people don't even have issues with trans individuals and believe they deserve equal rights. Unfortunately, it's always the smallest group with the biggest megaphones making everything out to be worse than it actually is. Yes, lawmakers are going very overboard with anti-trans laws that are severely affecting the lives of people. Actual people. And they definitely need to be helped. But I see progress is going to continue, and pretty soon, transphobia will be put in the dustbin of history, among every other time hatred and prejudice tried to shape society. I'm Ben, and I got some Harry Potter books to burn. Y'all take care.